council who recognises the importance of beginning meetings with karakia to connect with you, no matter what our understanding of you might be. We thank you, Te Atua, for this place and the joy it gives us to live in Heretaunga, the fruit basket of Aotearoa. We are deeply blessed indeed. Through the words of your prophet Jeremiah, you called us to seek the welfare of the city. And you tell us that when we do this, when we seek the welfare of the city, we will find our own welfare. It feels as though these are perfect words for our Hastings District Council as they seek to do all that they can for the people who inhabit these plains and beyond. They are words that remind us that the decisions that the council makes, whether they are about water or roading or housing or the arts or community well-being, they are indeed all about seeking the welfare of this city, this district, and the flourishing of its people. God, we are so thankful for the women and the men who sit around these chambers today and the challenging but significant role they have in providing governance over this district to enable people to live fully. Through the power of your Wairoa tapu, may you guide each of them as they work into this with the decisions they make today. I te āriki. As we journey closer to Christmas, we are conscious of the significance of this time, the celebration of the birth of Jesus and the significant step that was in making the kind of world you long for to be made manifest. As Jesus would go on to teach us what you desire for all of us and for all creatures and all of the universe is a world where peace and justice are the reality for all, where love and joy are abundant and where all will flourish. That is your kingdom come. So as we sprint or limp towards the last weeks of 2022, may the time following Christmas be a space of restoration for all who seek the welfare of this city, and may your abundant blessings be upon this meeting today. E roto e te ingawa o ihu karaite. Amene.
Thank you, Jill, and all the very best for the whānau of your parish of St Andrews through this festive season. Can we have a waiata, please? Thank you, before Jill gets on with her busy day. Thank you. Tātou. Thank you. Wonderful, Councillor Hawke. Thank you so much, Joel. All the very best to you and your whānau. Merry Christmas. Apologies, councillors, today from Councillor Jessup, whose moko has COVID, and also Councillor Lawson, who has injured her back. I'm happy to move from the chair. Seconded, Councillor Kerr. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Conflicts of interest. I will just address those as we come to them throughout the agenda items today. There are no minutes to confirm. Just before we start off, and a very warm welcome to all our guests today who are presenting their reports, can I just give an overview of all the amazing stuff that's been going on in our community in Heretaunga Hastings over the last month. Firstly, the naming of Chris Collins Building at EIT. As Chris and Te Pukenga changes, and there is big change, of course, with our EIT. We hope to be able to retain EIT Te Pukenga for Hawke's Bay as our name, but to acknowledge Chris through this naming of this building was a very special event for me to attend and acknowledge his huge commitment as the Chief Executive of EIT. We had the Rotary Storford Pride of Workmanship Awards, and it was wonderful to present awards to many of our people through the health sector, through our council water team, through the Life Education Trust, many people who were acknowledged through their Pride of Workmanship through the Rotary Annual Awards. We recognised outstanding legend of food and wine, and that is Kim Thorpe at the Food and Wine Legends evening, and for Kim now to be added to the legends, it was a great honour to attend. And the Food and Wine Classic was a wonderful Hawke's Bay tourism event and well attended. The Rose Sunday, and thank you to all of our councillors who attended. This is the most beautiful place in our district, the Rose Gardens, and to be able to bring our community together just to have fun and look at the beauty of the roses was a very special afternoon. Our Hawke's Bay Heritage Awards, we were very, very proud for our first Hawke's Bay Heritage Awards to take out 2 large categories, one for the municipal buildings and one for Toi Toi Arts and Events Centre. So we were incredibly Heretaunga Hastings proud that night and very moved by that recognition after 8 years of enormous work by so many of our people, and we acknowledge our very own Bruce Allen. The AMP Wine Awards was also a very successful evening, and what it did for me was actually notice that how all of our wine industry, who have been through some challenging 2 years, all came together to celebrate with their teams. And thank you for the Councillor Corbyn and Councillor Fowler who attended with me to recognise the importance of our wine industry in our region and our district. The Rissington Armistice Day Service Commemoration Day was exceptional, and Councillor Kerr and myself in the rain, and if people haven't had the opportunity to get out and see these outstanding sculptures made from a redwood tree that the community have protected and looked after, absolutely outstanding to see, to head up to Rissington, such a beautiful part of our district, to see this exceptional sculpture. We welcomed Ask Your Team to their new home in the city, a business that is expanding across our district, and we welcomed them one Friday night when they opened their doors in what we know as the old Hastings Health Centre, or before that, the Hastings Post Office. So this business has moved to the city and is a very, very exciting times in terms of the expansion of this new business. The citizen celebration for 100 new citizens a couple of weeks ago recognised the importance of acknowledging our citizens through COVID. And all of the new citizens had received their certificates from the Department of Internal Affairs, but it was celebrating the difference that they make to our community through their citizenship from where they've come from. The PanPac Business Awards, Hawke's Bay Chamber of Business Awards, was a wonderful celebration, and for us to present the new emerging business was a highlight for me. These businesses had started their business through the COVID period, very, very brave and courageous people. I also was able to acknowledge in the Shakespeare Room farewell to a principal of Havelock High School, Greg Fenton, who was an outstanding principal, and he is now retiring. There was a huge community thank you in our municipal buildings. It was incredible to recognise, and the councillors who attended, Councillor Hawke, Councillor Kerr and Councillor Corbyn, the incredible, Councillor Dixon, our outstanding rowing Olympic champions, Emma Twigg and Tom McIntosh, and what a beautiful event that was, and also that our Hawke's Bay Rowing Club which was established in 1876 in Hawke's Bay, has produced 4 Olympic rowing champions. So 5. Thank you, Elwyn. So what an outstanding event, and they raised $100,000 for the club, which was also exceptional. So thank you to those attended. That was a magnificent night and a great effort by Regional Councillor Jock McIntosh and his efforts to raise all that money for the future sustainability of Hawke's Bay Rowing Club. Oronkahanga Music Trust had an amazing performance at Toi Toi. 170 children played the violin and cello on stage. Councillor Dixon, thank you for your commitment to this trust that started a few years ago, providing the opportunity to enable young children who would never have the opportunity for free to learn the violin and viola. Started with 30 children at Camberley and now 170 pupils on stage. It was just wonderful. The Manaho at Whararangi Marae, Chief Executive Nigel and I attended the opening, and what a magnificent place. And if anyone ever has the opportunity to get out there, it was a wonderful Saturday morning, a lot of people, and it's beautiful work. And the carvings that some of our carvers that are doing some work for us was exceptional to see their work there in this beautiful place. The opening of the Laurie Cook Reserve highlighted far more than a playground for us. It celebrated our horticultural community and all of the people who came together from across the region who had been part of nursery of horticulture. And it was a celebration for them, acknowledging Laurie Cook, being a nurseryman for 60 years in the Hastings district. The senior prize givings I've attended have been Hastings Girls, Karamu High School and Hastings Boys, and Councillor Hawke, who has attended on our behalf Flaxmere College. It was amazing to hear the struggles of education through COVID. We just accept and take for granted that things will just carry on as business as usual, but the number of people absent, students absent, and also the number of challenges of our students learning online has been very difficult, and I acknowledge all the education sector, our teachers, our principals who have helped our senior students get to such great heights through a very challenging year. The opening of the Naruroro playground at Whakatū was far more than a playground. It acknowledged the last of our 7 small communities to have safe drinking water. Our investment of $90 million, and have 7 small communities now, very small in some cases, like Tipohui, that also all have safe drinking water. This has been an incredible piece of work by our staff and by the community, and that was one of the highlights, I'd say, of my year, seeing the children, how excited they were. And I thank Councillor Redstone, Councillor Corbyn and Councillor Harvey for joining us and the Chief Executive, and thank our staff for making sure that playground welcome was as good as it was. And every day, twice a day, I think Anne's told me that the barbecue has been used. So when you provide those facilities, the community will use them and they love them. And the highlight obviously was me coming down the Flying Fox, never too old. The Hastings Choral Society had Handel's Messiah at the Baptist Church in Havelock on Sunday afternoon. Huge crowd, wonderful to, as a patron, as the mayor, attend the Choral Society, and what an amazing effort with incredible soloists. The St Columbus Carols in the Village Green, our Hastings ambassador, Henari O'Keefe, did an amazing job bringing the community together. Councillor Dixon attended, and there was a wonderful celebration in the Village Green on Sunday night, and with Councillor Watkins driving centre up for the occasion was the icing on the cake, and the children loved and queued up for all of their things. We're very pleased to announce that this week we have heard about the school safety program for Mahora and Camberley, and that's the transport funding of $9.7 million. This is an incredible achievement for the safety of our students getting to school, and encouraging active transport, but doing that safely is critical. So this is an incredible funding result. Also, our regional art storage and archives of $9 million announced yesterday by the Crown, and there's a very welcome announcement. We know that we could never do the storage without the funding, and to acknowledge cultural and heritage funding for this, we're very grateful for the $9 million. Mahi for Youth, we have $1 million of funding for the next 2 years to make sure our children have connections into employment and career pathways. And we're very grateful for that $1 million from our partnership with the Crown to deliver Mahi for Youth and funding for the next 2 years. The first reading of the bill for the AMP Society was in Parliament yesterday, and as you know, that's about turning the beautiful Tomoana Showgrounds into a reserve for community for future generations. That concludes the month as the Mayor. And what a fabulous month it has been. Now, it gives me great pleasure, item 5 on your agendas, Council, to welcome to, and I think this is probably Rob's first induction into the chamber. So very warm welcome to the CEO, Rob Stratford, and Wendy, the Chair of the Hawke's Bay Airport, and to present their annual report for the year ended 31st of May. 30th of June. Yeah, ended 30th of June, sorry. Welcome. I know we're limited for time and I've been talking too long, but Rob, we'd love you to introduce yourself, and we are a friendly bunch. We're not going to ask too many difficult questions. We're very grateful for what our airport does, and can I just acknowledge the 3 awards that the airport has won in the last year, if I remember correctly, community, and that must be the ambassadors and connecting the community, sustainability, and the best medium airport in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So congratulations.
Now, Wendy, 8 months, and I'm originally from South Otago, if people haven't heard that, so I'm a boy from the south, and it's a great pleasure to be in this wonderful fruit growing area, which I've enjoyed as a kid and been up here a few times, and my wife has lots of relatives here, so I'm really enjoying the role. It's very exciting, and there's a big future ahead for the airport going forward. Over to you, Wendy.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Yes, so Rob's our not so new CEO now. He's been with us since April. So, look, I'm aware you've got a really heavy agenda today, and I've been asked to keep it short, so I will. I also see that there was an excellent covering paper from Mr. Allen covering off the salient points of our annual report. So I'm not going to dwell too long on any given aspect other than to say that what you will have seen in the annual report is that actually we had a trading loss for the year, but ended up showing a profit overall, and that was because we bought the land that surrounds the airport onto the books, which wasn't previously. The reason we did that, we had new auditors in Deloitte, and we sat down and started to look at what was the practice across all airports in New Zealand. So there's that degree of consistency in reporting there. But also from the board's point of view, it gives us a better reflection of how well the airport is actually performing against its total assets. So that was probably the only key point that I'd focus on. Other than that, disappointing for the board was that we saw what I'd almost describe as a sea of red in the dashboard that we had around the KPIs for the SOI and the airport for the year. I'm not making excuses, but what I will say is this, is that we suffered severely as a result of COVID, but more particularly the second lockdown for the Auckland region and the impact that that had. It took some time for passenger numbers to recover. The other thing that I would say is that there's probably a lesson for us in terms of how we actually define success against those KPIs. So there were a number of the items marked red that actually were time driven. So they had a specific date in which particular outputs were to be delivered up. So part of the reason for the red was that the date wasn't met, but actually the output or the outcome was actually achieved, maybe not on the date. And to some extent that was driven by the fact that we had an acting CEO, we were recruiting a new CEO, and we needed to regather and pick up again. But items such as strategic reviews, review of critical risk, they have taken place, just not in the strict timeframes that were set under the SOI. So, look, I guess the last part of the short presentation today is to actually focus on what's happened since the year end, because we're looking to receive from you very soon your letter of expectations as we go into preparing the SOI for 23-24. And I think it's really important that you understand that the world has changed quite dramatically for us in the last 6 months. So much so that I described it the other night when I was with Her Worship, and that is that when we prepare the SOI or our strategy or our master plan, it's really a slice in time that we're preparing it. It's a reflection of the environment that we think we're operating in and can foresee. And look, to be frank, it was a pretty dark time over the last 2 years when we were preparing both the SOI and the master plan. And what we've seen now is it's almost like night and day, because since April of this year, our passenger numbers have been well north of 50,000 passengers per month. And you would see in our current SOI that we have budgeted on just over 500,000 passengers for the year. All things being equal and no lockdowns, and I keep saying that very emphatically, we're probably looking north of 600,000 passengers this year. The other key thing that's changed in terms of our financial performance is that actually we're just roughly about $1 million ahead year to date on revenue and $500,000 ahead on profit. The reason for that is not only just the increased passenger numbers, but also we had our annual renegotiation of the landing charges with Air New Zealand, and there was quite a considerable uplift in the per passenger rate that's been applied for this year. So what that's done is given the board cause to reflect on how we see our business planning and budgets for the year coming up. One of the things that we're really focused on is making sure that we've got a fit-for-purpose airport. And one of those other things, Your Worship, in the month was actually the blessing of the forecourt. So that brings an end to the terminal and forecourt construction, which has basically consumed the airport for the last 3 years. Some of the things that we're looking at now as a board is firstly catch up. So that CapEx which we deferred, one because of the financial constraints that we were operating under, but secondly because if you don't have planes landing, you're not wearing out the assets as quickly. It's as simple as that. Now we're saying with the passenger numbers returning, we want to catch up on our CapEx. So that means things like our apron, resurfacing our apron. It means looking at our car parking. It means looking at our layout of the airport. So we'll be looking at bringing that on the books. As far as it appears at the moment, we will be able to fund that with the cash flow that we have. So we won't be looking to incur or see any additional debt there. The other thing that we're looking at is in terms of some of the key initiatives that we have discussed previously in the SOI, they are starting to get some momentum now. So if we can just go to the next slide, please. Is that you? Yep, thank you. So there are some things there that we've talked about, and they've been aspirational, I think, to some extent in the last 2 years. They're now gaining some quite heavy traction. So the first of those is the solar farm. We've got an excellent partner in Manawa, and we have had the opportunity over the last few months to actually review the construction costs that the business case was done on, based on a couple of years ago. We've looked at the capacity of the land to actually size what we'd look at in terms of the solar farm. And we're now at a point where we believe, in view of the future demand and the pricing of electricity, that now is the time to look to progress through to lodging a consent for an application for the solar farm. So at the moment, we're currently engaged in developing our consultation strategy, which will feed into that consent. We are hoping that, all things being equal, we'll be looking to lodge that consent early next year, first, second quarter of next year. We've also had an opportunity to revisit the freight opportunities, and I have talked about that previously in the context of our diversity strategy. One of the things that Rob has done since he has come onto our team is we've actually had the opportunity to engage with an airline where we're potentially considering a proof of concept project next year, where we're looking to potentially assist with the export of produce going between the airport and Brisbane in the first instance. So we will do this on a very staged basis, but at this point we can say that there's a credible opportunity to look at a pilot project in regards to freight. We're also looking at the business park and relaunching that. You'll recall that last year we launched the week before Auckland shut down. It couldn't have been more disastrous. So we're looking at that, but we're also looking at that in the context that with our CapEx this year, we're looking at the layout of the airport and how the airport may optimise the accessibility and the utilisation of that area that we've got for the business park. And finally, Rob has also been quite heavily engaged in discussions with other airports, other regions, looking to increase point-to-point services from Hawke's Bay. You may have been aware we had the campaign point-to-point to Dunedin from Hawke's Bay. We're also in discussion with another operator at the moment about potentially accessing regional ports where we don't have to look at that hub model that means that we have to go through Auckland, Wellington or Christchurch all the time. So look, I don't want to go too much into detail on any of those other than to say they have a traction that maybe I didn't have the confidence to express to you this time last year when we were discussing the organisation's diversity strategy. But first and foremost, our focus this year will be very much on making sure that we've got a fit-for-purpose airport that acts as an effective gateway to the region. So that's it from me. Is there anything you wanted to add, Rob? No?
Thank you very much, Wendy and Rob. That's a very thorough account, and there's no question that our airport's in great heart, and despite the challenging times that we have had in the past couple of years. Just a couple of questions, starting with the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Worship. Wendy, it's great to see your passion and enthusiasm still shines through after these really tough years. So a question to you both. What do you see as your greatest risk on the horizon? What's something that's maybe not within your annual plan that's out there that's going to hopefully not arise but makes you worry?
I can answer that, I think. For me, it's probably climate change and looking at the long-term position of the airport and the impact that might have in terms of sea level rise and so on. So sustainability, there's a reason why we have a real focus on that. We had a discussion earlier in the year based on the information that we had available to us. Do we defend or retreat? And the fact of the matter is that actually we've got good core infrastructure in place, which will enable us to exist quite satisfactorily on that site through to 2060. But we also need to know what, that data is becoming more and more refined as time goes on. So I guess it's the risk of what we don't know at the moment, probably.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hawke.
Me mihi ki tō kōrero tēnei ata. Thank you for your kōrero. Hey, look, it's top of mind is the fuel crisis around the contamination in Auckland, and and the demand that's going to impact in the arrivals or departures of whānau in our major airports. Have we got I know it's only 24 hours old, but have we got a bit of a plan in regards to what we're going to do, noting that the fuel is not going to arrive until the 12th of December, the new batch?
Want me to take that? Yeah. So, Councillor Hickey, that's actually, I hate to shift shift the responsibility, but that's actually probably first and foremost Air New Zealand's major problem at the moment, along with a number of other issues that they're facing. So, fact of the matter is, our airport's been designed to accommodate up to 1 million passengers, and however long they might spend in the terminal. But beyond that, it's actually Air New Zealand. We haven't had any contact from them at this point to indicate how they might be electing to address that issue. But I'm pretty sure that Rob's team will be engaging with them pretty soon just to see what the impact will be in terms of flight numbers. Interestingly, for those of you who've travelled, we've had significant disruptions to flights in the last few months, and I was staggered to see we did the highest number since COVID last month of 54,000 passengers, in spite of numerous cancellations that we had at the airport. So I'd say it's a work in progress.
Okay, supplementary question, just if that's okay, just in regards to rental vehicles, and if flights are cancelled, I know that's been a major impact in some of our airports, and do we have any kind of remedial things like that in those kind of circumstances?
So again, can I suggest that we basically provide the terminal as an opportunity for tenancies for rental companies.
And we've got our Chief Executive of Air New Zealand coming to us next week, so there'll be a number of questions. Thank you. Councillor Dixon?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Rob, and welcome, Rob. Just a question that's mainly a community question. Since the new facility and terminal's been opened, there's only one paid parking machine there, and it's outside in the weather. Is there a possibility of having one placed internally so you don't get wet when you're trying to pay your parking ticket?
Yes, no, there will be three actually in very short time frame. And the purpose of the canopy is also to house the new paying facilities, and we've been waiting for some equipment to arrive, and we've opened the canopy without the new ticketing facilities, but they'll be here in another month or so. And of course, the other thing that we are hard on the back of that is we're looking at license plate recognition, which will streamline the whole parking process within the airport.
It might be quite good if that was communicated to the general public, because I know there's some concerns out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Watkins?
Thank you. Look, I love the new terminal, but just one observation, and correct me if I'm wrong. When you depart, there's nothing that says, have a safe flight and we hope you'll come back and see us again. And when you arrive, there's nothing when you walk into the terminal that says welcome. You've got to get in your car and be driving almost half a kilometre away before you see anything that says welcome. And when you're travelling, you get in, the first thing you say is, welcome to Hawke's Bay, it means something. So just two little observations. And
Thank you, and actually value that. I think we've also got another director here at the moment as well. So
Great.
We'll take that on board.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Lovely. Just about got the board here. Awesome. Okay, that's great. Good feedback. Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Councillor Nixon, last speaker.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Yeah, who would want to be in aviation the last 3 years? Man, it must have been tough. I'm glad I wasn't. And so, no adverse comments about the performance. I mean, it is what it was. But I'm just looking ahead. I couldn't find it in the report. If it's there, my apologies for the question. But what is the likely impact of rising interest rates over the next, say, year or two likely to have?
Well, I think it's pretty instinctive, the reply to that, Councillor Nixon, which is it's not great. But Rob is an accountant by trade, so would you like to respond more specifically?
Yeah, look, it doesn't scare us. We're seeing great growth in passenger numbers, and there are lots of other revenue opportunities for the airport as well, which we'll be exploring next year and the years beyond that. So I'm not, it doesn't stop me sleeping at night, to be honest, and it will increase a little bit, but the debt we carry isn't excessive in terms of our revenue and our asset base. So the airport is actually in quite a good, strong position to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redstone.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just interested in the business park and wondering what, if you've had any interest in that or what the uptake might be to date.
Okay.
Yes, I can take that one. Look, there has been quite a strong interest in the business park. It will take us 2 or 3 years to really break ground and probably do something quite substantial. But we are working hard on it, and there are lots of opportunities. Just to give you a feel for some of them, there's obviously the freight opportunities. NZ Posters comes forward to mind. And then there's the other peripheral services like IT, business hubs, and other facilities that are really quite related to what we do at the airport. So whilst it has been pretty quiet for a long time, given the shortage of property in Hawke's Bay for development, I think we'll see some success with that in the near future.
Thank you for that. We'll look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
So, and just picking up on that, I think it's probably really relevant that the ongoing conversations that Wendy has highlighted in terms of risk long term for the airport and the board having that overview of, is this the best place for a business park for the future with what we've seen in climate change over the last even 3 years in our region. So I guess that's probably a big consideration for the board as we work through how we're going to adjust and manage, and we're doing this every day in our district, how we manage the impacts of climate change and what changes and what we've learned in the last 5 years and what actions we are now thinking about. So I think that's probably just highlighting that. Have a recommendation on page 10. Have a mover, Councillor Watkins, seconded Councillor Kerr. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that is carried. Thank you very much for your time today. It's lovely to see you both, and good luck for all the coming excitement with all of the visitors arriving home for Christmas. So thank you, lovely to see you here. Councillors, standing orders please. I'm needing to seek some direction. Some of us are standing, some of us aren't. They are in place at the moment. Councillor Kerr.
My apologies for not standing earlier, Your Worship.
Well, if anyone wishes to change them, please.
I think
leaving standing orders in place. Thank you. Right, now we move to item number 6. A very warm welcome from Sophie. Have you got your chairperson with you today? No, Sophie's been left. This is volume 1, page 79 and 93 in your attachments. This is the end of year result for Horse of the Year, statement of intent, and answer any questions, councillors. Welcome, Sophie.
Thank you. And this is, I'm on my own today, so you just got me to look at. Sorry about that. Sorry I didn't do a report. As you can imagine, with the last 2 years, we're running out of things to talk about and report on, actually. And just like the Hawke's Bay Airport, the last 2 years have been, as you know, not very nice, but we're moving on and we're bigger, brighter, and things are looking amazing. So I just want to make a quick note that this is 99% finished. It has been delayed a bit. We just couldn't get our timings right with our auditor, and there has been a few minor changes, not to the actual figures, but some areas that were found. So there is a few things I've picked up on with the auditor that that it won't change the outcome. Sadly, it didn't give us a lot more money that they found. So rather than going through the whole document, the biggest change that you'll see in the financials is we've always had our shareholder loans kept off the financials because they weren't actually liable, and if I've given the wrong terminology, you can help me out. But after, obviously, the sale of the grounds, which we're very excited about, and just with how the shareholders are feeling, we felt it was time to put those loans from yourself, Showdown Hawke's Bay and ESNZ, Equestrian Sports New Zealand, back into the actual financials. So business practice, it's all visible, it's all there. So that is the easiest way to deal with that. That's probably the best way of explaining it. So that's the biggest change. That's the biggest change with the financials. So we had an end result. Obviously, as you know, we got the amazing help from the UTSP scheme, which we pretty much passed on to our suppliers. That was not actually a money-making venture for us. So with the amazing support of the Hastings Council and the Napier Council leaving their funds in, we managed to come out at the bottom with a $26,000 surplus, which is fantastic in a cancelled year. So once again, we're very grateful for your support on that. And then I just wanted to just clarify for anyone in case they're just looking at this going, gosh, you've got a lot of money. Out of that 765, well, out of the cash flow that's sitting in the account at the end of financial year of 765,000, 560,000 of that was actually once again prepayments and credits, which is a great way to go into a new financial year for this year. So it looked amazing, a little bit more interest, but it's not ours. So there you go. That's pretty much the financials. Pretty simple.
Thank you. Thanks, Sophie. Councillor Kerr?
Thank you, Worship. I actually had a comment on the statement of intent, if you wanted to speak to that.
I haven't got to even drink statement.
Okay, I may just speak to the statement.
I didn't actually write it. So.
It was just actually, thank you, I thought it was really clear. One of the questions I do like to ask is, what are the greatest risks? And it's highlighted and laid out really clearly. So just wanted to acknowledge that and those that have helped create it.
Can I talk on the greatest risks? Yeah,
Yes,
thank you. Since that's been written, as you can imagine, the environment that we're in at the moment's changing every day. I did make the auditor aware of a great risk we've had since writing that, but he said it's happened so much, it's happened now. And I am going to actually bring it up as very valued shareholders and also supporters of our event. Just this financial year, just this financial show, we're having a huge, and we only found out 2 weeks ago that we have lost a huge revenue stream. And sadly, it is of trust funding. We can't get it back. We can't fight it. We can't do anything. So we have, but don't worry, with a huge planning, checking every single expense, putting our hand out to everyone that helps us. We have managed to, when I say lost, we didn't actually get it because it's not ours in the first place, but $100,000 revenue we just lost within 24 hours. And we've done everything we can to try and work with the DIA to try and get this back. Just this year, no one's putting their hands up because the prosecution cases that are out there that are pending. So everyone's nervous, and the advice that everyone's getting from their lawyers is don't touch it. So at the end of the day, it is gambling funds, so we don't always count on them, but we kind of do. So we've done everything we can to bring the bottom line to a comfortable position to go on and put an amazing show on without the obvious cost of loss of revenue. So I just wanted to make you aware that we have had a big revenue drop, but we're going to work through it. It's fine, and we've got equity.
Thank you, Sophie. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, thank you. Just in regards to the statement of intent, and you've got also the limited 5-year goals, and I was just looking through in a way of how do we articulate, because most years when you come forward to us, there'd be a question around how you are promoting Hastings. And I'm just wondering how that can actually be woven into the statement of intent to how Hastings is promoted.
We could, thank you. Yeah, we could actually. I was supposed we had our first meeting already with your marketing team, Naomi and Vicky, and we're about to give them a full, I think it's about an 8-page document of how we are going to promote the event. And together, we've got a lot together. We're doing a lot together. It is hard. We could probably, if you wanted to, add that as a report that is seen in the chambers. But we're doing a lot to promote Hastings in the leading up. Probably we used to do it December. We're not going to because it's falling on deaf ears at the moment. People just want to get this year out of the way. So January, February, we'll be doing a lot to promote Hawke's Bay or Hastings. So there is a huge document on it. So I'm happy to submit it. But if you want to sit, we could add it to the statement of intent. But it's quite a long-winded how to add it.
Yeah. Well, it is. You've got your 5-year goals, and I just wonder whether it can be incorporated in one way there that it is to promote Hastings and to a broader national and international audience type of thing. So I understand that you will have your marketing activations, your own and in partnership with council and other sponsors, but ultimately one of the key deliverables for council is that this is seen as one of our marquee events that we contribute to. So just like to see that be more solidified in the statement of intent.
Can do that, not a problem.
And we still love Heretonga Hastings Horse of the Year. Just saying, Sophie. We do love that. And we do love actually owning this event because, you know, we have been very loyal supporters and we love this event. It's very dear to our people here. Councillor Kerr, you no?
Yep. Your Worship, I'd like to support Councillor Harvey. Noting this as a draft statement of intent, I would ask that Horse of the Year in their final statement of intent include a paragraph, not the whole eight-page document, but a paragraph supporting the request that Councillor Harvey made.
Great, thank you very much.
If that's acceptable to Horse of the Year.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Your Worship. Also supporting my colleagues' statements, but just a query around process, so more for officers. As the event draws closer, do we have an opportunity to see the marketing, the comms and all of that sort of stuff? Because I guess that's the way of us leveraging the ongoing investment we make in this event. And so just keen to understand from a process perspective, when is the best time to dig into that? Because I suspect it's not this draft statement of intent.
Through Madam Chair, so there will be a process, and so officers are working through that obviously with Sophie and the team. And there's a lot of detail operationally that goes into that. But we can certainly up and chat with Mrs. Ferguson about bringing something back to council to give you an update of what that looks like going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hawke.
Ngami, not to take anything away from the Horse of the Year, but maybe also in the statement of intent as a partnership and relationship with mana whenua, iwi and hapu, because I know the society has a really staunch relationship with Waipatu Marae and with the new kura kaupapa being built across the road next to the Hastings Sports Association, because I know many of our au whenua trusts are all horsemen or horse riders, and you know, bareback riding is, I know it's not quite equestrian and show jumping, but it might be an opportunity to create an opportunity to engage with local iwi and hapu.
Thank you, Councillor Hawke. Okay, so I have some recommendations, councillors. Have a mover, please.
Your Worship, I'm happy to move the recommendations, but add the word receives the Horse of the Year statement of intent, but I'd like some wording around and recommended changes, or
so to incorporate the Hastings brand.
Council
Yes.
receives the Horse of the Year statement of intent and notes suggestions from councillors, or words to that effect.
Through Madam Chair, I think maybe we could just put Council receives the Horse of the Year Hawke's Bay Limited Trust 2022-23 statement of intent and requests an inclusion regarding the promotion of Hastings into the statement of intent.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Your Worship, I think there was an additional column and relationships with mana whenua.
Okay, we'll just get that up. I'll take another question. Councillor Corbyn.
Yes, I think the inclusion of the promotion of Hastings needs to be expanded too in the 5-year goals.
Okay, so the mover and seconder, are they happy to include that? Thank you. You're happy? We don't need to see it. You're happy just to accept that that's going to be included in these recommendations? All right, I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, Sophie. I'm sorry that you were on your own today, and we'll tell Mr. Tim that next time he's missing in absence. He's been told off by the principal. On that note, talking about from the principal, I have an apology at 10:10 from Councillor Renata, and so I'd like to add as a mover of the apologies to include him, seconded by Councillor, who was the seconder? Pardon? Yeah, I think it was Councillor Kerr, thank you. To include Councillor Renata, please, in the apologies, which I received 10:10. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you, that's included. Thank you. Moving now, a very warm welcome to Dr. Richard Grant, who is the chairperson of Hawke's Bay Museums Trust, and to present his annual report for the year ended 30th of June 2022. Welcome, Dick. Lovely to have you with us today. And what a great celebration it's been. That's why I've worn my particularly bright sunshine today. We wouldn't be happening without that Crown funding, and we are in business. So very, very excited. Councillors, if we could just move to those, for those of you to look at the attachments, please. Those attachments are on in Volume 1 on page 101. Volume 1, page 101. That's the attachments of the annual report for the Museums Trust for the year ended 30th of June 2022.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, councillors. It's a pleasure to be here again to answer questions on the Trust's annual report. Could I first of all congratulate the council and its staff on having whipped down to Wellington and got nearly $10 million from the government. I think that's a very, very important argument about the role that the MTG and its collection play in this community. Could I also thank the council and its staff again for the work that they do with the trust, because without them and without that cooperation, we'd be looking at a rather less happy picture than the one that the Mayor has just depicted. I've only got two preliminary comments to make on the report. One, you will see in my introduction that I referred to the COVID level disruption that the MTG has had over the period from the beginning of 21 through pretty much to February this year. And I wanted to put on the record my thanks to the staff of the MTG for holding the course that they held throughout the year, because very, very difficult circumstances for them, not only in terms of working conditions, but also because the environment just meant that people weren't coming into the museum. And then you have a public facility like that, and you don't have visitors, your morale tends to suffer, but the staff have done a great job. The second remark goes to the heart of the work that we are currently doing with your council and with the Napier City Council through the joint working group chaired by Councillor Dixon. This has been a very successful process, and I can remember when I started as chair and talking to the council of that time, saying that what we really needed to have across the region was a vision of how the MTG should operate and how it should reflect its community. And I was grateful then that the Hastings District Council bought into that argument, and I'm grateful now that they have stayed the course, because the results are starting to show. And we will see here in Hastings, when the storage facility gets finalised and opened, just what the MTG collection can bring not only to the people of Hastings and Hastings District, but across the region. You will have essentially two facilities, one the MTG, where the library will be out, and we will be able to use the full facility. Currently, in the MTG in Napier, the staff can only show in 40% of the building. So that has been the case now for 5 years. And then you will have here in Hastings this new storage research facility, which will be, obviously a state-of-the-art piece of work, and it will enable both communities to access the regional collection, which, as we say in our report, is one of the richest in the country outside Te Papa and the Auckland collection. So I'm very happy to take questions, Your Worship, but
Thank you very much, Dick.
do let me reiterate again my thanks to the Council for their cooperation and their work with the Trust.
Thank you very much, Dick. Councillor Watkins?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Dick. My question is around the valuation of the collection, which for many years we've been told is $41 million approximately. And I see in this report it's been devalued by almost 25%. Have I got that right?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, you have got it right. Those of you who visited the museum will recall on the entry gallery on the ground floor were the 4 po, which were commonly referred to as the Irene Donnelly po. They were part of her estate. And the MTG had those on long-term loan from the community at Waiheke. And when Waiheke revamped their meeting house, they asked for these po to be returned to them. And as we had them on long-term loan, we were very happy to do that, to return them to their rightful place. When the valuers came in, they said, we estimate that the value of those po is approximately 10 million. And you have restored them to their original donors, therefore it must come off your balance sheet. So we took them off the balance sheet. It just shows you, incidentally, how valuable parts of our collection are. So that's the explanation, Councillor.
Thank you, Dick. That answers it.
Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Dick, in 1.7, you've got the names of 5 of your trustees. Are there going to be any changes in the future for those names that are listed? Oh, sorry.
Well, at present, sorry, Your Worship. At present, I'm unaware of any changes to the trustees, except that we have Johanna Mart has retired, and at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, the nominee of the Foundation Charitable Trust to replace Johanna was named, and her name is Jeanette Kelly. As to the others, well, HDC makes its own appointment, NCC makes its own appointment, the iwi makes its own appointment, and I'm caught in the middle.
And can I just thank you for your tremendous support of the JWG. It works exceptionally well. Proud to lead it. Happy to move the recommendations, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Seconder, please. Councillor Harvey. Last question or comment, Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thanks. I overlooked the reduction in value. I'm a bit unprepared with this question, but will that have any measurable effect on our insurance costs?
It should, but we haven't had a quote yet.
Okay, awesome. That's a good answer. Thank you very much, Dick. Have a mover and a second. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any against? That's carried. Councillors, now we move to item 12. Thank you very much, Dick. All the very best for the next part of the project. Item 12, which is the adoption of the annual report and summary. We have our auditor, Stuart Much, from Ernst Young, who's going to join us now. Sorry, running 5 minutes late, but very warm welcome to you, Stuart. And I welcome John Nicol to come forward, our Chair of Audit and Risk, John, great to have you with us today as well. Enormous piece of work, and it's always great to, and very warm welcome to councillors who some of you may not know, our new auditors, Ernest Young. Ernst, sorry. Sir Ernst. Thank you, Nigel. So who wants to introduce you? Welcome to Aaron and Jess, who've done all the hard mahi to get us to this place today. We're very grateful for your hard work too. So who's leading this? Mr. Allen? Thank you.
I'll very, very briefly, Your Worship. So, John is the chair of our Risk and Insurance Committee. We'll just have a few words before we pass to Stuart to talk through the audit process and the annual report that you've received in front of you. So I'll hand to John.
Yes. It's a quick handover. Tina Koto, thank you for the chance to chat about the annual report today. I know most of you, but there are new councillors here, so kia ora to you. I chair the Risk and Assurance. I'm the independent chair of that, and typically how the process runs is we would more formally have reviewed that at Risk and Assurance, but because it's an election year, our last hui was actually the 19th of September, so time's kind of overrun us, but I gave an assurance at that meeting to Mayor Sandra and Nigel that I would stay close to the process, and if there was anything that I was concerned about, we would hold a Risk and Assurance meeting. Two things, there was no reason to hold one of those, which is a good thing. And I did stay very close to the finance team, particularly around revaluing of assets and technical issues around the landfill and everything else. So I was happy that our team were working hard. And the strange thing that happened, though, was we got a call from, never happened to me in 30 years of commercial stuff on boards, and they said, we're overwhelmed. Would you mind changing auditors? And I said, pardon? I said, I'm not going to make that call, but you better ring Bruce. And I think that's actually a feather in our cap, that they actually approached us. The team went into, had a 2-hour meeting and said, we'll do it. So we changed auditors midstream, and I've known Stuart from past lives when I was a director on the Port of Napier. So I like Ernst Young, and Stuart's a pretty good auditor as far as auditors go. Stuart, how are you? But our team, our team responded really well to that challenge. And we've got statutory ability to wait to get these signed off by the end of December rather than October because of COVID. So our team responded really well. I'm really happy from a procedural point of view. I also sat in on the closeout meeting with the auditor. There are still 1 or 2 loose ends to tidy up, but we can't tidy them, if I'm honest, we can't tidy them up unless you say pretty much yes today. It's the chicken and the egg. We got a few things to tidy up, but we need to know that you're in support of this. Three things that I really just want to highlight from the accounts, which, the accounts are the process, but what are they telling us? This organisation now, we've got revenue of 170 million a year. So we are a substantial organisation. But probably most importantly, and Stuart may even touch on this, we've now got assets greater than $3 billion. So our total assets are 3.1 billion. Because our assets are valued on whatever the construction costs are, and then they're aged down for however age they are. So our asset base has gone up 500 million this year, that's just a fact. So when what I'd like council to be aware of is when we're talking budgets, talking assets, our asset base is at a very high value now, which will mean construction costs in the future will be really high. And so will depreciation on those assets, which funnels through into rates. So they are all interrelated. And the last thing that these accounts tell us is our debt levels are about 240 million, which is a big number, but we are a big organisation. And we can't fund all what we need to do out of day-to-day cash flow, so we have to borrow for it to spread it out. But that's one of the key things we do at Risk and Assurance is to make sure we're within policy, and our debt levels are well within local government's recommended bands. So that's all I wanted to say from my own point of view. I'm happy that I carried out the commitment I made to Mayor Sandra and Nigel and Bruce to go through that. We're really lucky. We've got a really good team here, and I'm not saying that lightly. And even, when we had the closeout meeting, Stuart said the team was a joy to work with. So that's high praise indeed from the auditor. So I'm really happy that we're in a good place, and the recommendation from management is pretty solid. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you for that good work that you've done for us. The EY team, Stuart, would you wish to add anything at this point?
Good morning, councillors. Thank you, Your Worship. Oh, right, sorry, just checking on the words are happening. Look, it's been a pleasure to join the team with Hastings in terms of become the appointed auditor on behalf of the Auditor General. Look, I'd like to express my apologies for not being able to be there today in person. That was the intention, but unfortunately a select committee at Parliament got moved on me, and I'm required to attend that shortly after this meeting. Look, it is a little bit of an unusual event to be asked to carry out the audit of a 30th of June balance date in about August or September. The work we've done and the work that your council finance team and other members of management have undertaken to prepare the annual report has really supported our ability to step up and get the job done. So as John has reflected, I really would like to commend the finance team for supporting that. Auditors are hard enough work at the best of times. New auditors are even worse, and new auditors trying to get a job done in a relatively short period of time is just taking it to another level. That said, I can report that we have completed our audit. As John reflected, there might be a couple of minor little editorial tweaks here and there to the annual report just to make sure that what goes up on the website looks perfectly good. But the document you have in front of you is of a good standard and is at a point where you can adopt it. We have, within my report, which is in your papers, I'll take that as read, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. However, just wanted to clarify a couple of things. We had some outstanding items in the appendix to our report. Those matters, other than your adoption of the annual report, and us finalising the exact form of the audit report with the Office of the Auditor General, are the only items that still remain outstanding. And in terms of, the key matters, really, there are three major areas I'd like to sort of focus on today. Infrastructure valuations, basically your performance information, and particularly following up on the matters where you received a qualified audit report last year. And basically grants and subsidies, particularly in terms of the recognition of the revenue that you're receiving from central government. So I'll just touch on those really briefly. Chair of the Audit Committee, John, has reflected upon the scale of the infrastructure valuation uplift. We played particular focus on the land transport valuation and the three waters valuation. Land transport valuation was carried out by Becca. We're pretty comfortable, or very comfortable about how that has all been done and how that's been reflected into the financial statements. The three waters valuation, significant uplift from the last valuation carried out in June 2020. Our initial impression was one of surprise by the scale of the increase. We were certainly aware and expecting a large increase because we've seen that around the sector over the course of the last 2 years. And we all know what construction prices are doing in the current environment. And because you adopt a depreciated replacement cost approach, you are immediately impacted by changes in pricing. So we've worked through with your waters team and your various different external experts who provide you information in regards to unit pricing to get to a point of comfort on that. But there'll be a downstream impact on the level of depreciation, but ultimately we're satisfied that the valuation for inclusion in the financial statements is appropriate. I'll just pause there. Is there any questions in regards to sort of infrastructure assets? Obviously, you've spent a lot of money and done a lot of work this year. And as John has reflected, it's a significant value.
Councillors, any questions on that aspect of the report? No?
All right.
None? You have a question?
So I'll move on to...
We've got a question from the Deputy Mayor.
It's not so much a question, more a comment, that when we read of such huge valuation increases in our assets, the assurance it gives us that the auditors are so thorough. So it's just more that compliment and thank you to be able to read the report and understand the investigations to support the new values of value. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next point of focus has been around service performance reporting. There's two areas there. First of all, the areas where you've had historical challenges, water loss and customer complaints. Water loss, council management have undertaken a number of different alternative attempts at sort of sorting that out and trying to figure out correct and accurate water loss information. But ultimately, it's been determined that it's going to take more meters to be put into the ground, put into the system to measure that more accurately to resolve that matter finally. And that is what's been reflected in the annual report, and we're comfortable with how that's been reflected. In terms of customer complaints, there's been work done by management to resolve a number of the matters that have been outstanding, that were an issue last year. However, during the course of our work, we'd identified that your after-hours calls centre that receives complaints still effectively working a little bit on the old method of reporting, and so therefore it's been more focused on the calls out or the work calls or the response calls as compared to the actual complaints itself. So that matter is still living with us, but hopefully will be resolved over the course of the next 12 months. The last area which we're not qualifying on because we're satisfied with the work that council has been undertaken is in regards to water quality. With the changes in the water quality mechanisms and governing bodies around the country, that has been a big area of focus by the Auditor General this year. We're satisfied by the steps that the council has taken to have an independent review of your water quality reporting prepared. That was a really good report, and that's the results of that and your own work have been reflected appropriately into the annual report. The final area is just in terms of funding from Wakakatahi and other government agencies. Because of the significant level of funding we received, that is an area of focus for ourselves, particularly with an eye for cut-off in regards to the integrity of the funding relating to the various different projects you've been undertaking in water supply. There's been a couple of adjustments made and one or two small, acceptable adjustments not made in the financial statements. And to cut a long story short, we're satisfied with the end result of that. I think it's probably enough for me, but if anybody has any questions in regards to any element of our audit report or our report to council, please ask those questions.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question to our staff. The recommendations which are on a separate attachment recommend that council receives the report, annual report, adopts the annual report and adopts the summary annual report. Do we receive the audit review? Is the audit review automatically locked in with one of those documents? It just didn't seem to follow for me, or am I completely lost and in the wrong place altogether?
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, through your worship. No, you're not in the wrong place. And I guess previously we haven't received a closeout report of this nature to have particularly noted it. So I don't think there's necessarily any reason to or not to note more formally that you're in receipt of it, but it's probably something that would be good practice to note the receipt of our auditor's closeout report.
Thank you. Can I have that added to a recommendation? Happy to move from the chair. Seconded, Councillor Kerr. Just a question, and now I'd like to invite Aaron. Is there anything you'd like to add to what has been said today, Aaron? Given that you've done a lot of this hard work with Jez, thank you. I acknowledge you both.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'd just like to thank the auditors for coming in so late and promising the 8th of December. Wrong way, sorry, thank you. Promising the 8th of December and actually making that deadline. I'd also like to thank Jess, who has been a financial analyst and been fantastic. She worked for Audit New Zealand for 10 years, so she was a real catch to get her on board and help us with this process as well. And also all the finance team, the asset managers who worked on this as well. So they had a lot of stress on them around those valuations. Lex Verhoeven and his team in relation to the non-financial performance as well. So it was a real council team effort to get this point.
Well done. Thank you very much, Aaron. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. No further comments or questions. I'll put those recommendations, and thank you very much to the team. Put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Well done, everyone. Thank you for coming in today, John. It's great to have you in the chamber.
Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. See ya.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you very much to you and your team. Great to have you on board.
Your Worship, may I just add thanks as well? As somebody who's read many audit reports, this was by far the easiest report to read. I like the way it was addressed to councillors. It highlighted things, it talked about the investigations done. So as an audit report goes, it's bloody marvellous. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving now to item 8, welcome Mr. Clues, Clifton Trongoyo Coastal Hazards Joint Committee summary notes from a meeting held on the 15th of August and September, 23rd of September. Pretty self-explanatory. I'll just ask any of the councillors who were in attendance of that meeting if they wish to speak to that meeting on coastal hazards. Anyone wish to speak? No. Handing it back now to Mr. Thu. Not Mr. Thu. Sorry, Mr. Clues.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Can I just add one point of interest, perhaps, in jumping to the bottom of the report with the next meeting of the Joint Committee being set now for February. The Technical Advisory Group are working on a plan and an intent to have an informal session before that to brief and bring up to speed any new appointments to the Joint Committee as a result of the election. And it's intended that that would be open to councillors, newly elected councillors from all 3 of the participating councils that wish to attend that, as well as all the returning councillors from the 3 councils who feel they may need a refresh on this project.
Great, thanks, Mark. Any questions, councillors? Have a mover, please. Thank you. Councillor Kerr, second Councillor Redstone.
Sorry,
no
Your
further
Worship,
comments?
actually, probably best that we don't move,
No.
given that we're on
Okay,
it.
could I have another mover and seconder, please? Councillor Sholem, seconded Councillor Apatu. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Moving on to item number 10. Welcome Mr. Allen, and this is our Performance and Monitoring Report, Quarter 1, 30th of September. Quarterly Financial Report. Aaron. Thank you. We missed 9. We're coming backwards. Back in the hot seat, Aaron. Our councillors, it was great. Bruce took us through yesterday what this looks like and how it works and how we can read it easily. So there's a lot. For those of you with hard copies of the attachments, that is page 31 to 37. No, it's not. It's not in.
Excuse me, can
it's
we
in
get
the main
those
report.
things?
So it's page in the main report.
In the main report.
31 to 37. We've got that in front of them. Thank you.
Just after I'll be done here. Cool. That's great. Excellent. Good morning everyone. It's usually good afternoon, but obviously there's a bigger agenda this morning. So this is quarter one financial result for September 22 for the first 3 months. It's good that we've moved on from the direct impacts of COVID and lockdowns, and you're starting to see that effect. Last year, revenue in the first quarter was down $1.4 million. This year it's around 60k difference to budget. So now the challenge is more aligned to the BAU inflationary pressures and the costs and so forth that's come through from what's left of COVID and the after effects of COVID, if you like. Just on the accounting result itself, what we've got is a $1.4 million unfavourable outcome on the bottom line here for the first quarter. We'll go through those and explain how they work. So it's tracking unfavourable bottom line. There's only a couple of major drivers in there that are pushing that number. In terms of 62k, we'd look at that as tracking pretty much on budget when you're looking at around $40 million worth of budget that you're talking of in that first quarter. In terms of the revenue, while it's slightly under, it's interesting because the major driver for that is we're still 600k short on the Waka Kotahi subsidies not being received. So that's a timing issue, and that will flow through as the work's actually done. So when you look at that, that's actually quite a strong result when you take that into account. Making that number up, if you like, or offsetting that is we've got fees and charges that are favourable by around 259k, and that's across quite a range of activities, including a lot of our community facing facilities that were either closed last year or badly affected by COVID. With those open, it's having quite a positive effect on that revenue line, which is a good thing to see. And the other two parts are around the interest received and the development contributions. Both of those happen to be favourable at this point in time. Just remember that the interest contributions and the development contributions also have offsetting costs on the other side. We're just seeing the revenue on this side. In terms of the expenditure, the one that we've already talked about in the annual report adoption is all around depreciation. It's $3.1 million of the unfavourable in terms of the actual expenditure to budget. So, as you probably heard, the infrastructure revalue of the assets went up $550 million. Three Waters depreciation will move from $15 million to $26 million. So it is a major factor, and you're going to see over the next 3 quarters that build substantially that negative number on that non-cash item. So that's a question for council, is how that's funded and so forth going forward. Offsetting that, we've got personnel, which is around 580k favourable. That's due to a number of vacancies. As you've probably all seen in the media, it's actually getting harder and harder to recruit people, and that's always an ongoing struggle in that area. Lower contracted costs, expert advice is also lower, but that's just the timing of when projects come on stream, when it's spent versus the phasing of budget. So we don't anticipate that will be under for too much longer. In terms of capital spend, I'm quite pleased to see that this is over, and probably a number of the former councillors who have been in previous training are quite pleased to see this as well. Over the last couple of years, we've, with all the resourcing challenges around the COVID impacts, have meant that we haven't been able to actually spend the money or get the resources to spend that money as much as we would like. In this first quarter, you can see that it's around 4.3 million above the spend of budget. It's purely mostly around timing, but also there are a number of one-off purchases that were approved and budgeted for land and buildings, and also the water drinking program that has pushed that number up. officers are quite focused on this area this year in terms of making sure that projects that are going, and ones that aren't can be replaced with something that can actually go ahead. So it's a good, definitely one of the better starts I think I've seen in my time at council with the first quarter spend there. That'll be interesting. The size of that budget is around 148 million, so it's not insignificant, which is why there's quite a lot of focus on actually making sure that the projects that can go do go. So that's pretty much it. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Aaron. Councillor Nixon.
Yes, thanks. Yes, I almost felt we'd been saved by the inability to find staff that made quite an impact on our finances. Obviously, if we don't employ staff, something doesn't get done. How do we get any sort of measure of the value of what's not being done or the contribution? I mean, how does that? It's not a financial thing, but somehow it needs to be recognised. I just wondered how we get it in there, because I couldn't find it and I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's a good question, Councillor Nixon. It's about service, levels of service. How do we monitor those?
I want to add to this as well. We don't have a financial measure. Actually, one of the things we're experiencing and the information we're receiving from our people and capability team is, yes, we're having vacancies, but it's taking us longer to fill them, so that the time that we have without staff in certain roles is extending. So effectively what that does, it puts more pressure on the staff that are here, and we're seeing that across the organisation. Staff are under more pressure to deliver because the expectations don't change around delivery. So we need to manage that really carefully around ensuring that we have reasonable expectations on staff, particularly when we're not carrying the full load of staff that we need to deliver the program of work that we have.
Chief, comment?
Thank you, Worship, through you. Just to add to that, I mean, it's our collective challenge. We are, you are a very ambitious council for Hastings, and just to the Mayor's earlier monthly report, we are now going to layer in nearly another $50 million of government-funded activity on top of a really busy work program. I think starting from the positive, I mean, we are a highly engaged organisation. We are in the top quartile of all organisations in New Zealand in terms of engaged workforce, as measured by our recent engagement survey. But we are going to have to, in a space where, whilst we're a good employer, it is taking longer in the labour market to find staff. And so this is going to be the collective challenge around how we balance and ultimately make choices around prioritisation and service levels, because that's ultimately some of the trade-off judgments that are going to have to be made at this table in terms of an environment where we've got record levels of government funding, we've got record levels of capital delivery that we're trying to do, and plenty of demand for our services. So it's not it's challenging, but offer really positive space. But that is the things that we're going to have to be sort of live to, because there isn't a lot of bandwidth in the organisation just to keep layering more and more.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Hawke.
Just on the back of Councillor Nixon's question in regards to the impact of shortage of staff, do we have an understanding on what vacancies, how many vacancies are actually available, and what level are they at, management or on the ground? And do we know the reasons why we're not attracting, whether it be housing or capability or skill?
Thank you.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, we live and breathe this every week. So it's a standing agenda item at the lead team meeting around our vacancies, because what we're also doing is managing delivery and cost really tightly. So every vacancy that someone wants to fill gets approved at the leadership team. We know where our vacancies are. Look, it's a mix of the labour market. There are some skills that everyone's looking for that aren't in plentiful sort of supply. We are lucky in the environment that because we have a good culture here, our turnover is only been running at 13%, against a sector average of nearly 20%. So we're not having a lot of people leave our organisation, but when they do, it is, as Mr. Allen said earlier, in the current labour market, is just taking, it's harder and it's taking longer to fill the vacancies that we have. But it's something that we actively manage, because at the end of the day, our single biggest asset in terms of delivering on your agenda is having the right staff to deliver it.
Thank you. Right, any further questions to the Chief Executive or Aaron? No? Thank you. Councillor Nixon has moved the recommendations. Councillor Hawke has second. Any further questions or comments? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Well done. Thank you very much to the team. Thank you, Aaron. Huge amount of work. And just in terms of picking up on what Nigel has said about the government funding announcements and the work that will bring with it, could I just acknowledge Richard and his team, who have worked so hard to present those applications on behalf of those big projects. Could our vote of thanks be passed on from our council? Thank you. Moving, sorry, no, you don't want to say that?
Cameron would be very happy to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Right, moving on. Here's Richard on his own. Well, a very big thank you to Richard, and congratulations to him for all his hard work. Moving on to item number 10, page 43 of the agenda, and the attachments are in volume 2, page 3. And this is you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, actually, it's the whole organisation captured in one document. And I think for those of you that the workshop we had earlier in the week, where we talked about the reporting framework that we have here at Council, particularly given the agenda that you have today, where we have adoption of an annual report, your quarterly financials, and you have this performance and monitoring report. So ordinarily, this would come through what was the Operations and Monitoring Committee, is now the Performance and Monitoring Committee, and we will have a bit more focus on what this report presents to you. But largely, I'll take the report as read, Your Worship. We won't not doing a presentation on this this time. As I noted earlier in the week, this report is it captures the period of time to the end of September. As we move forward and we get into next year and we get a role going through the Operations and Monitoring Committee, we will adjust this so it is capturing the most up-to-date and relevant information prior to each meeting, rather than being a quarter-by-quarter snapshot. So there's a few senior staff here, Your Worship, if there's any questions of them on any elements within the report.
Great, thank you. So, Councillor? Thank you. Councillor Harvey has moved. Councillor Fowler has second. No further questions or comments? Thank you. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Congratulations on that piece of work. There's a lot of work gone into that for everybody, all of our group managers. So item number 11, page 45, and this is the Chief Executive's delegated authority during this period before Council was reformed after the elections and the beginning of the new triennium. Who would like to take us through this?
Just take the report as read, Your Worship, if that's okay. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Happy to move, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Harvey. Any questions on that report? Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. We've done item 12. Now we're up to item 13, which is the adoption of the Register of Delegations and Council appointments to committees, subcommittees and external organisations. Welcome to Matt. And as we've discussed, these positions can be changed at any time, and as we manage and work through the beginning of our work program, which you've heard today is going to be very large in the new year when our committees stand up. Thank you, Matt and Craig and Louise and everybody who's helped me with this, and looking forward to bedding down and getting everybody in their place. Councillor Kerr?
Your Worship, I would just like to speak for the Rural Community Board, who a few days ago held their meeting and have made recommendations for the Rural Community Board members to sit on there's 6 opportunities. So I was wondering if it would be appropriate if I recommended them on behalf of the Community Board.
Certainly.
So the recommendations read that Council approve the appointment of a Rural Community Board member, Jonathan Stockley, to Performance and Monitoring Committee, the Strategy and Policy Committee, and the District Planning and Bylaws Subcommittee. And then the Council approve the appointments of Rural Community Board members to each of the following subcommittees of the Strategy and Policy Committee: District Development, Vicky Schooler; Environmental Wellbeing, Isabel Crawshaw; and Community Wellbeing, Isabel Crawshaw. Thank you.
Can we please have those included into recommendations? Have you got a copy of those, team? You have. Thank you very much. Excellent. Councillor Redstone?
Thank you, Worship. Just ensuring that the committee name is changed from environmental wellbeing to environmental resilience.
Thank you very much. We will make sure that is by environmental resilience and not environmental wellbeing for the subcommittee for our environment. And there was another note that Councillor Sholem isn't on that committee, but it was in this, so that's the other amendment. Thank you. Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, thank you. I was just checking the terms of reference for the standing committees and thought there was an anomaly with the performance and monitoring one in comparison to the other standing committee, that it didn't have receive and consider reports from subcommittees, and felt that that needed to be included. I've talked to Craig about that.
Happy to include that into performance and monitoring. We'll add that in. Any other changes or any other comments? Happy to move from the chair. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Kerr. No further questions or comments? People all comfortable? All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That is carried. That is a huge piece of work.
Wow.
And well done, everybody. And as we work through and we start off our hard mahi at the beginning of 2023, we will follow progress. And as I said, anything can be changed at any time as we work together. So thank you, Matt, and Craig, and Louise, and all the Democratic team who's helped us bring that work together. Right, now we are looking at item 14, which is elected members' remuneration and update of expenses and allowances policy. Mr. Cameron, this is agenda item page 57.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just pretty much take the report as read. It's a remuneration authority that sets the remuneration pool for council. We've been through processes to establish the recommended levels of remuneration for the different positions over and above the basic councillor's salary, again, which is set by the remuneration authority. And then subject to council's decision today, we put that decision back to the remuneration authority, who actually make the final decision and then gazette the salaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watkins.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just in terms of vehicle kilometre allowance, does that apply to all councillors, irrespective of whether they are domiciled close to the council chamber or only to those outside a certain kilometre parameter?
Thank you. Okay, we'll just check the policy and come back to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Used to be.
Yeah, it has changed.
It's changed. Okay.
Yes,
cool.
but I'm just following it up. everybody's eligible in the
Thank
policy?
you.
Great. So just to make sure, if anybody isn't aware of that, could Democratic support our, particularly our new councillors, or in terms of that opportunity for that allowance, please? Great. Right, am I going to move in seconder? No. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Hawke, seconded Councillor Watkins. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Item 15, external appointments to committees and subcommittees. Item 15, page 69. And thank you to Louise. And any questions on this paper? Craig, did you want to add anything to your paper?
No, Madam Chair, we'll just take it as read.
Thank you. Councillor Watkins?
All right, happy to move or second.
Okay, thank you,
Yep.
Councillor Watkins. Seconded Councillor Redstone. Councillor Corbyn?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a question on the Napier Hastings Future Development Strategy Joint Committee. I see here the committee will be sorry, I don't have a question.
We're just working through what that looks like at the moment.
Yeah.
Comes to next meeting, and I'll discuss that with everybody. It's making sure that that the right team are on that committee. It's a regional committee, it's a new one, and working through with the regional leaders on that one at the moment. At what level we need to have people on that committee. So that will come back to you next week. Councillor Kerr?
Just making sure, Your Worship, that we're on item 15, and if we are, I'm happy to move the recommendations
Yes,
as
we
written.
are.
Thank you. Yeah.
We've done that.
We've done that one.
Yes, thank you. We're moving quite quickly today. All right. Excellent effort, everyone. All right, item 16. I put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Review of standing orders. Thank you, Matt. Welcome back. Wow, you've been working hard. So you'll note that Te Reo Māori and the English versions are in the table of contents. So that is new and now available for the ease of reading. So everyone will be able to see that as a change. So this is agenda item, was on page 73. Has everyone got that in front of them? Matt, did you want to add anything to your paper?
Through the Chair, and thank you, Your Worship, I'll allow you to take the paper as read. I'll just draw attention to a couple of things. So, noting that amendments to the standing orders require a vote of 75% of the members present, and a full list of the changes are included in the paper. We consider them to be of low materiality, and they really are there to just clarify and correct certain provisions. Proposing to keep the usual procedure that we've been operating in council meetings for moving and seconding amendments, that being option B, but note that a meeting can move to option A or C should they wish.
Great, thank you. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship, and please forgive me for a moment while I fumble. Some of the annotations that I put in my agenda have wiped themselves, so I'm just trying to, on the fly, re-raise my question. Under standing orders, I think it's 18.3, and again, I apologise, I'm doing this on the fly now, where it talks about public excluded items. I was just interested in clarity around the process of moving things out of PX, because I couldn't find a clear answer to that within the standing orders. So obviously at some point it becomes appropriate for what was formerly public excluded information to become public, and how elected members are notified of that so that they're aware of what they can freely talk about and what they cannot.
Thank you.
Just might defer to Mr. Cameron or Mr. Smith on that question.
Great, thank you.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, so it's a point we've actually been discussing as officers. in matters like tenders, for example, will quite often, or you'll see in some papers coming up today and next week, there's recommendations about when the information can be made public if it's known at that time. There are other situations where information remains confidential until such time as one of the parties, be it council or the external party that it's the business information of, may by either fault or through course of business make it public. But it's probably appropriate that we try and tighten up our procedures going forward, that if a matter has been continuing as public excluded information and those circumstances change, we should notify the councillors of that change in circumstance. We don't really need to have a council meeting for that. I think we can probably do that just by internal communication. But it is an area that there's an opportunity to tighten up our procedures on.
Thank you. I think I agree. So we actually haven't got anything included in our standing orders currently. So let's follow up with that and bring something back. Perhaps I could put that down as an action, please, from Councillor Sholem. There's an action that we bring that back to council, how we deal with PX and when it can be put into the public arena. And that's usually around when contractors have been notified and the work's about to begin and things like that, when the tenders and the arrangements of the contracts are through. Councillor Dixon?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. When I was reading through, I couldn't find anything about the appropriateness of standing orders during Zoom meetings. We had a considerable number of those in the last triennium. Should there be something in there about Zoom meetings?
Thank you, Craig.
Are you referring, councillor, to the fact of standing when to speak? Or yeah, I just want clarification. Are we talking about the requirement to stand when speaking, or are you talking about the standing orders?
Talking about the standing orders themselves.
Yeah.
Standing orders for Zoom meetings?
Well, again, I'm not clear on your question because the standing orders continue with Zoom meetings here.
Is there anything that you think that needs to be changed, Councillor Dixon?
Well, it needs to have a reference in there that the standing orders that prevail within a council meeting need to also operate within a Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm. Scott?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Through you, Your Worship, the standing orders would apply to Zoom meetings because they are council meetings. There are some of them which are practically difficult in a Zoom context. I would expect the chair to address those at the time.
Doesn't that need to be referenced, is my major point?
I wouldn't think so. Not in my opinion. They apply to Zoom meetings of the council in as much as they apply to every other meeting.
Okay. Comfortable with that, Councillor Dixon? Thank you. Councillor Corbyn?
Clause 18.4, non-disclosure of information. The restriction does not apply where a meeting has resolved to make the information publicly available. There could also be a resolve to make it publicly available after so-and-so has been notified or after some action has been done. So the resolution could be passed, but the timing of the non-disclosure may not be at the same time. Do you understand what I mean?
No. Could you repeat that comment, please?
We may resolve at a meeting to make the information publicly available, but there may also be an element to that after some action has been taken. So while the resolution has been passed, the information shouldn't be made publicly available until whatever time or action has been taken.
So I think that whole public excluded item and standing orders, as we've written down as tightening our processes, bringing back an action on that. So that will be included, and we'll have a conversation before that standing order is brought back. Matt?
Thank you, and through the chair, I'm just clarifying Councillor Dixon's query for the appropriate standing order is 13.10 regarding chair's duties during an audio-visual meeting. And just to Councillor Corbyn's point, I think...
Everybody here, Matt, okay? Did you hear that, Malcolm? Councillor Dixon?
Sorry, no.
Could you repeat that, please?
Sorry, just regarding your earlier question, Standing Order 13.10 covers those duties of the chair during a webcast meeting, or a virtual meeting rather, and part of that is requiring that the standing orders are met as per normal.
Thank you. And following Councillor Corbyn's question?
Oh yes, sorry, and that Councillor Corbyn is contemplated by Standing Order 18.4 that there may be conditions that go with that resolution that would need to be met before that release would happen. Yep.
Okay, you comfortable with that, Councillor Corbyn? Good, okay, thank you. We have a mover, please. Councillor Shollam, seconded Councillor Butto. No further questions or comments about the standing order paper? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Item 17 is the Code of Conduct. Thank you, Matt. We've had a good look at this through workshops, etc. Any questions, any comments?
Happy to move, Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Kerr, seconded Councillor Butto. Any further questions or comments about the Code of Conduct? No. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Right. Right. Item 18, proposed amendment to council meeting schedule for December 2022 and the adoption of meeting schedule for January to March 2023. This is on page 85. Give you a minute to get there.
Happy to move, Your Worship.
Thank you. And seconded Councillor Corbyn, moved by Councillor Kerr. No further comments. Everyone comfortable with that schedule? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Sorry, Vicky, do you have... Oh, sorry, Councillor Corbyn, missed you.
Yeah, I know we passed over item 17, but clause D in the recommendation is actually incomplete, and I'm just wondering what the complete sentence was.
Clause D of the recommendations, to appoint the Chief Executive or his delegate as a register for the purposes of Section 54G of the Local Government Act 2002. The Chief Executive may delegate the... Well spotted, Councillor Corbyn.
Your three, Madam Chair, doesn't often happen, but that's an error on our part.
So could you finish the sentence?
Just needs a deletion through it, so...
Okay.
You shouldn't have started it.
All right. Do you need to formalise that? You've already noted it? Okay, great, thank you. Right.
Sorry, Madam Chair, just an answer to Mr. Allen, it wasn't me that was wrong.
I moved that item. Have I moved this? 18. So we've passed 18, and could someone advise me when is lunchtime? 12:30. Okay then, thank you. So item 21, happy to move from the chair to go into public excluded for the PX items. Seconded Councillor Redstone. But before we do so, could I invite, please, the officers to advise why we are moving into PX for these items?
Sorry, Madam Chair, there's three items recommended for public excluded. Grounds for the public exclusion to protect council's negotiating position. Also, the papers contain business information of external entities and individuals, and it's appropriate at this time that they are public excluded.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Now we move our formal part of our agenda today. Thank you to any community that may be watching our council meeting today. We now finish on our live streaming, and we have 3 items in public excluded for the reasons that have just been outlined. So we'll just take a minute as we complete our live streaming. Thank you to the community.